Well, Premier League is back, and so is Hotspur ahead of the brand new season. We are all revamped here at Hotspur, and we've got everything for you this season. Whether you're a fan of Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, Man United, Man City, West Ham, Aston Villa, Newcastle, we have got you covered whatever your flavor is in Premier League teams. We're gonna have match reviews, instant reactions, analysis, predictions, and every once in so often, and hopefully more often than not, some awesome guests for you this season. We have got you covered for the Premier League right here on Hotspur. So, last year, 3 of the top 6 clubs failed to make it to the Champions League. As we mentioned in our last video, Aston Villa qualified for the Champions League this year. So 3 clubs fell behind. Which of these clubs do you think will make it into the Champions League? Let's discuss. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. This is the second part of our Premier League preview series. Back-to-back days of Hotspur uploads, let me tell you that. So we're starting to get on a roll. On this video, we are going to discuss which of these 3 Premier League teams do we think is going to achieve their Champions League dreams. Now, obviously yesterday, we spoke about some candidates from the lower part of the spectrum, that from the outside who could come and potentially leapfrog these teams. But these are the 3 teams. Obviously, tomorrow we're going to discuss who we think are in the title contention, which includes another group of 3 teams. That means only one spot it remains in that Champions League for next year, which is who the top 4 race is going to go for. And it goes down to the following teams. But before we get to that, make sure you are smashing the hell out of the like button. And if you are watching this without subscribing, what the hell are you doing? You gotta hit the subscribe as well. We're gonna be putting out videos almost every day this week for sure, including when we get to the weekend. The Premier League is back. We'll be covering that too. NFL season's around the corner. NBA season is also a few months away as well. So there's a lot of stuff. Hotspur is officially up and running for good. So you guys are not going to want to miss. This is the best content out there. I'm not here for clicks. I'm here for pure love of the game and pure entertainment. So let's get started. So the first candidate we will discuss on this show, in this preview, is we're going to preview here Tottenham Hotspur. Oh, as an Arsenal fan, how this is the funnest activity to do. So I'll try to keep it as short as I possibly can. Look, by my premise that I spoke about yesterday, that I think Aston Villa is going to drop off, puts Tottenham, who finished 5th last year, in a premium position to grab that 4th spot. And as much as I don't want to say this, of the 3 candidates today, I think this is the team that's most likely to finish in the top 4. Look, Tottenham Hotspur, I think, had a very bad slide towards the back half of the season, but people forget that they started off very, very strong. In fact, they were the pole position holders for quite a while at the beginning of the season. And Ange Ball was being very effective in the Premier League, and he was being praised on week and week and week and week. But what really wrecked Tottenham were the injury issues. They had lost a ton of players that were very important to them, kind of bad times. People forget that Destiny Udogie was out towards the back part of the season when they were struggling, and he was really, really good. Basuma was really good at the season. He had a red card setting off, and he never was quite the same after that. James Maddison was playing some of the best football of his life at the beginning of the season under Tottenham. He suffered an injury, which took him a while to get back from. And their lack of depth really was shown last season. And also, I feel like maybe their lack of maturity, I'd say, towards the end of the year. But one thing that did come out of last year was I did gain, even as an Arsenal fan, a massive respect for Ange Postecoglou, which, fun fact, I actually live, I live about 1.5 kilometers, maybe even less, 1 kilometer away from where it all started for him at South Melbourne Football Club. So, fun fact for all Spurs fans is I do live down the road from where your own manager has grown up. But in the transfer window here for Tottenham, though, it hasn't really been a massively busy window for Spurs. They did make Timo Werner's loan that last year permanent, so Timo Werner is now a Tottenham player permanently. Archie Gray came in from Leeds, and yeah, out goes Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Emerson Royale, really of note. Ryan Sessegnon also left. Not really like that, you know, not much of a huge difference here. But yeah, really it's Werner, Gray, and Solanke. Dominic Solanke. Look, Dominic Solanke is one of the best strikers in the Premier League a season ago. He has really improved in his time with Bournemouth. Really a cast off from Chelsea and really Liverpool as well. But now he gets his third bite at the apple at one of the bigger clubs in England. And I expect him to take this with both hands. And I think that Solanke added to a team that was really lacking goals after the loss of Harry Kane. He's now stepping into that position now. And I think he is in a really good position to excel, especially with the likes of Son, the likes of Kulusevski, the likes of Maddison. We've already mentioned Werner, who I think can really play off him as well, probably off that left wing if he were to play there. I think he's going to do well here at Tottenham. I think if he did well that last year at Bournemouth with what he had, I think he's going to really excel with Spurs. So, look, I have Villa dropping off, and actually have them dropping off quite substantially. So Tottenham are in a really, really good place under Ange Postecoglou, who showed that he has a winning mentality. And I think that is going to go a long way with them. I think he's trying to rebuild kind of the core of Tottenham. So, look, as I said, don't want to do this, but I'd have to give you straight honesty here. I have Spurs finishing in the top 4, actually, coming this season. So, the other candidate, actually have ordering this list, I think. Yesterday I went from least likely to most likely. Today I'm going from most likely to least likely. And the other team that I think actually really have a step up from last year, which was kind of a bit of a turbulent year for Manchester United, which ended pretty well with the FA Cup. So the last we spoke, obviously spoken about Man United winning the FA Cup, and also that Ten Hag's future was in doubt. Ten Hag ended up remaining at Man United. So Ineos' decision was to stick with Ten Hag and Man United. But obviously the policy of recruitment and everything has changed for United. And I think they've had a pretty good summer. I think basically what they're trying to do is kind of erase some of the bad business that the Glazers have done in the past, and kind of want to rebuild United, I think, without having to tear it down too much. So then they're pulling it back certain layers by certain layers, which I think is smart, especially so that they can maintain their positioning. Unlike a certain club, which we'll talk about later on in this video, who I just felt like drastically changed everything way too quickly. Man United, I think, are doing well. They had a very healthy summer. So, as of note, coming in for Manchester United, I actually think was, so to begin with, they did bring in Joshua Zirkzee, who is a player that I think was heavily linked with a few clubs that, like big clubs around, that really, really wanted him. AC Milan thought they were in the driver's seat at one point. Arsenal had interest for Xerxes at one point. His former club, Bayern, had interest in Xerxes, but Joshua Xerxes, at the end, after being very close to joining Milan, decided to choose Man United. Now, obviously, there's a link here. He's Dutch. Ten Hag is Dutch. I believe Xerxes came from the Ajax Academy, which Erik Ten Hag was the manager of Ajax for a while. So I think there's a link here. And look, from what I feel though is that the manager doesn't necessarily trust him to hit the ground running. But in terms of maybe later impacting them at some point this season and obviously in the future, Xerxes is a young player, good profile, and I think he is going to be a really good alternative to Højlund, who is a different profile of striker. So good business there. The impressive addition of the summer for Man United was being able to bring in Leny Yoro from Lille. Leny Yoro had almost pledged his future to Real Madrid. He made it very clear that he grew up as a fan of Real Madrid and he only wanted to play for Real Madrid. However, at the end, Man United was able to twist his arm and he ended up at Man U, which is a massive coup for them, being able to basically grab a player who was almost locked in to Real Madrid and getting him to change his mind. It was very impressive. Unfortunately for Leny Yoro, in his debut for Man United against Arsenal in Los Angeles, he did, I forgot exactly the injury, but he did get injured and he's going to be out for a substantial amount of time. However, for the future, this is a centre-back of young age who is tipped to be one of the best in Europe, similarly to when Arsenal brought in William Saliba. And obviously, as you know, from our point of view, William Saliba didn't necessarily play straight up day one. He took about 2 or 3 loans before Arsenal really saw the version of the version that he is now, that he played all the time. So I think, again, Man United have been very smart. It's not necessarily all about now. I think they've set them up for the future. And then the other additions to the team, they have 2 more additions that literally came out the other day, both of them from Bayern Munich. Both of them used to be players for Erik Ten Hag and Ajax, and that is Matthias de Ligt and Yusuf Mazraoui. That massively, I think, really helps Man United's defense, including if you think about Leny Yoro too. He brought in Euro and de Ligt, 2 very highly rated centre-backs. Centre-back was a massive issue last year for Man United. They had so many injuries at centre-back. They're employing Johnny Evans and Maguire together at certain points. It got really bad. Even Casemiro was playing at centre-back when they played us. Like, they literally had maybe 0 fit centre-backs at one point. So they had to really make that a point to address, and I think they've addressed it really well. De Ligt is, I think, a really top centre-back, and now you can probably pair him with Lisandro Martinez, which obviously gives Leny Yoro the ability to heal and also to not be put under the pressure so early on in his career. Let that gem sort of, develop in the background there. The other one is Mazraoui, and we mentioned yesterday that Aaron Wan-Bissaka actually transferred to West Ham, and they've upgraded here with Mazraoui, who was a regular starter for Bayern at right back. And I think overall, he strengthens that defense again from the fullback position. He's going to give Dalot a real good challenge. I still think that there's a chance that Dalot could beat him out. I think he's no mug himself. Also, Dalot can play out left back. And there is, obviously, Luke Shaw is just never able to be fit. So there's a potential maybe Dalot can move to left back, or Shaw, if he's fit, plays at left back, no doubt. But I think Man United's defense has taken a massive improvement from last year. I think it's important here now. What I really like is that they've actually stuck with Ten Hag. They've given him at least one more season to turn the ship around. Sometimes things aren't necessarily as it seems, and they've shown him that they have at least somewhat faith of him as a coach. That they've taken more pressure off of him in the transfers and stuff like that. Although it seems that they're buying Ajax players left and right. But besides that, I think they've stuck to it, and I think there's a collective consistency here for Man United to build on. I think they're going to improve this season. You can even tell in the way that they've played in the preseason and the way they played in the Community Shield, even though they lost, that there is a massive uptick. And not to mention, by the way, Kobbie Mainoo really came on towards the back half of last season and really provided a spark. Ahmed Diallo also provided a spark at certain points last year, and Alejandro Garnacho really had a breakout season last year for United. I also think that they're going to get a better version of Rashford this season. I think every other year for Marcus Rashford is kind of bad season, good season. So he had a bad season last year. I think he missed out on the England team. I think Rashford is going to come in and he's going to play much better this season, I think. And Rasmus Højlund is going to miss the first part of the season injured. He also got hurt in that Arsenal preseason game in LA. So I think at the end of the season for Man United, things have come together. I have them slightly probably missing out on the Champions League, but don't be surprised if Man United make it into the top 4 this season. And the third team, last but not least on today's video that we are going to talk about, is the team that has 45 players in it. That would be Chelsea. Look, I've had to bring my laptop onto this segment because they have signed so many players who I don't even know who they are. Like, I'm just going to be real with you. I don't know who they are. So, to talk about it. First of all, as we discussed in actually our Premier League review, because it happened so early on, Chelsea sacked Mauricio Pochettino, even though he was the highest finisher in the history of the Todd Bowley era, and replaced him with what I call Pep Light, light Pep, in Enzo Maresca, former Pep Guardiola assistant, who was relegated with Parma, was last year the manager of Leicester, brought them up, promoted them from the Championship to the Premier League. And again, it's another kind of restart here at Chelsea. The only real notable outgoing is Thiago Silva. The other one to take a look at is Conor Gallagher, with the potential. The Samuel Amorodion deal actually collapsed, which is why Conor Gallagher is now back training with Chelsea, although he was on the brink of a move to Atletico Madrid, which I believe will happen. So he will be out, and I believe João Felix will be in, but that is yet to be negotiated. And at the moment, the two teams are apart slightly in their valuation, according to Fabrizio Romano. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's a tricky situation because they can't sell Conor Gallagher without bringing in a player from Atletico Madrid. So it's going to be something that's going to have to be worked out. Now to the massive list of ins and outs for Chelsea. Just ins. Okay, here we go. Tosin Amrabayo came in from Fulham. Omari Kelman in from Aston Villa. Mark Guy in from Barcelona. Keenan Shrewsbury Hall joins his former manager from Leicester. Renato Vega comes in from Basel. Caleb Wiley, don't know who this guy is, from Atlanta United. Philip Jorgensen, don't know who this guy is, from Villarreal. Aaron Anselmino from Boca Juniors, don't know who that is either. And Pedro Neto, who I actually do know, from Wolves, who, look, I think he's an upgrade in that left wing position over Mykhailo Mudryk for sure. But the thing with Pedro Neto is, can he remain on the pitch? I feel like when he's healthy, he's one of the best wingers in the league. But the question is, when is he healthy? Because more often than not, I feel like he's unavailable. And the best ability is availability. Also not listed on the list that I just read out is Willian Estevao, who apparently is very highly rated he probably won't be joining Chelsea for another year. So look, my thing here with Chelsea, and I don't want to get too deep into the off the pitch stuff, more onto the pitch stuff, and what can we expect in terms of the Champions League race. So we're gonna stay on point here. Look, they had a lot of injuries last season. Obviously, Reece James is always on the injury list. They basically went through almost all of last year without Romeo Lavia and without Christopher Nkunku, who did come back at the end, but off the bench. So that's a key player for them. And of course, the question as well is, can Cole Palmer, was last year a shot in the pan, or is he going to either, I think he doesn't even necessarily have a better season than last year, something similar to last year. And look, watching the way he contributed in the Euros would give me an indication that this is a player that is not going anywhere. So look, talent-wise, and by the way, there's also the opportunity as well that Victor Osimhen might come to Chelsea. That's something. Again, I only talk about done deals or Fabrizio Romano, here he goes here, in order to be really brought up on here. And from what I understand, Victor Osimhen is not really willing to accept Chelsea's terms at the moment. So it's really a non-starter. So it doesn't really come into play here. And look, I'm going to have a different segment with my predicted Premier League table after the end of the transfer window. So during the international break. And that's when I'm going to be doing that stuff. So, look, Chelsea have the talent to probably finish in the top four, but they also have the execution and the lack of chemistry. And always, there's so many players in this squad. There's something about there's morale. Like the coach is changing again. There's so much terminology when you change your systems, and when you're changing a system every year, it must be so tiring, especially for young players. So, look, honestly, I think if a Chelsea fan has the expectation that they're going to challenge for the league or be in the top four, I think you're kidding yourself. The more likely outcome, I think, is that they have been doing what the last few years, which is struggle around mid-table, drop points to teams that they shouldn't. Because it's not all about talent, it's also about the intangibles, which I just think Chelsea sorely lack. So, look, I can't even put together a starting 11 out of the players that they have. There are so many players in this team, and they have a lot of cleaning up to do, Chelsea, in my opinion. But that is my view here on, Tottenham, Man United, Chelsea. Who do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Who do you think is going to make it into that fourth position to the top four? Or is it one of the teams that I mentioned yesterday? Could it be Aston Villa, Newcastle, or West Ham? I believe from anywhere from 4 to 9, it's actually pretty quite wide open. These three teams are a lot closer in quality to the three teams I named on yesterday's video than the three teams I'm going to talk about on tomorrow's video. That is for sure. So it's really an open discussion. I've had 2 videos almost now on who do you think can qualify for the Champions League. And look, let me guys know in the comment section. I'll actually leave a poll on the premiere of this video. So who will be making into the Champions League next year is the big question. But for now, guys, thank you guys for tuning in to this show. Please, as I said, leave a comment. Hit the like button, guys. I really need some likes to help the algorithm. Subscribe, okay? Honestly, guys, if you're watching the video and you haven't subscribed, then it's like freeloading, honestly. But anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.